Normie Seka, make sure to get him tea. He wants tea first thing in the morning every day. But Seka, I think we both need to know, how are you going to build Rosaria?
Got him.
Are you going cryo, Phys? What are you doing? I'm gonna go make coffee.
Alrighty, so let's go ahead and talk about Waifu Kaeya, who is going to be a polearm user, and she's going to be a free-to-play character. And the two characters that are most similar in the game right now for cryo characters or any character are Kaeya and Rosaria. They are very, very, very similar characters. The reason they're so similar, they both have a cooldown of 6 seconds on their talent, for whatever their ability talent is. So about 6-second talents, supposedly, based on the information we have right now. And they both supposedly have a 60 energy cost on their ultimate that lasts for, you know, a cooldown of 15 seconds with a duration of 8 seconds. So supposedly almost exactly the same as far as how the rotations are going to go out. Now, what the difference is the main stat for Kaeya is going to be energy recharge, whereas the main stat for Rosaria is going to be attack percentage. And the way that she gets energy back in a more consistent way is through her constellation 4, supposedly, if it is the same. Whenever you crit with your E ability, you get energy back, and you get more energy back. The amount of which, of course, I'm not sure of because the game is not released. Now, because that's the case, Kaeya really just gives extra elemental particles as well on top of his Frostna, which is very cool. So he already has extra energy on top of his overall gain for energy, and he gets more stacking with energy recharge. So Kaeya as an energy recharge battery is going to be a much more efficient energy recharge battery when getting your ultimate up more consistently. And you can see he only caps out at 126 energy recharge. Between multiple different builds for Rosaria, a lot of people have been asking about 2 different weapons in particular. The first weapon people have been asking about is going to be the Dragonspine Spear. And the second, of course, is the Crescent Pike. This one right here. Now, the main issue I have with the Dragonspine Spear is that people are trying to make this weapon work because they have it in their inventory from the Dragonspine quest. Everybody in the entire game actually already has a Dragonspine Spear in their inventory if they have completed the quest line through Dragonspine and gotten the actual spear done. And if they have that, they're like, well, should I level this weapon up or should I focus on another weapon? So, looking at Rosaria, this weapon will do good physical damage. However, if we're looking at Rosaria, as of every other character in the game, every character in the game has a part where they do more damage on their E and their Q ability than they do on their normal attacks most of the time. Rosaria caps out at level 10 talents with a decent amount of damage on her E ability, and it's probably similar to that of how much Kaeya does on his E ability, because between the two characters they have a similar cooldown, so I'm guessing the total value, cumulative value of the damage is going to be similar between Kaeya and Rosaria because of the cooldowns, and simply put, a lot of characters they do that very similarly between characters. The ultimate ability also seems really similar on the amount of damage that it's going to deal over time. It might do more, it might do less. It really just depends on the number of hits or the amount of time it's going to take to do those hits over the course of time. And I'm not really sure how much better or worse her ultimate ability is going to be in comparison to Kaeya. But what from I can tell from this video from myself last night, the speed that we actually get the hits in for the ultimate is about half the speed of what Kaeya hits at, so it's going to hit harder but less often. Now, the sad truth of it is, and the reason I wanted to talk about constellations, is a lot of people are focusing on the Phys build for Rosaria. Now, after playing Kaeya for a long time, I can tell you this. Here's my, where's my old artifact set? I have a Phys build for Kaeya, but I ended up with Kaeya switching to a cryo build almost entirely. And the reason I prefer this build, and I think a lot of people will also prefer this build, is for 3 reasons. First off, physical builds right now are massively weaker than any other build in the entire game. Physical builds are super weak because they can only rely on superconduct elemental reactions to improve damage, and nothing else improves their damage, so you're really not going to see as much power there. So using a physical overall build is not the best, and I find that to be not the greatest choice. But if you do want to go with one, my recommendation is if you're using a Crescent Pike or a Dragonspine Spear, you probably want to go with a Gladiator and Bloodstained set in order to maximize that type of damage. That's just the nature of things if you wanted to do that. But I personally think it's not the right choice. The reason I think it's not the right choice is because when we look at overall artifacts and overall artifact substats, I believe the Gladiator set overall, as well as the Bloodstained set, if you're going to go for 2 and 2 set piece, are significantly worse overall than the Cryo set, especially for Cryo-based characters that are just going to be out on the field for a long time. And the reason I say that is because of the way artifact substats kind of roll out. So if we were looking at just the normal attack damage from 4-piece Gladiator, 4-piece Gladiator is super not helpful at all for a Rosaria. And the reason it's not good is because the only thing that you're going to be improving for your Rosaria is the normal attack damage. But both of the weapons we have just described for both the Dragonspine Spear and the Crescent Pike are weapons that actually rely on physical damage and not a normal attack. Yes, they rely on physical damage because the Crescent Pike is going to do an additional hit, which is not going to be based on your normal attack damage. It is actually going to do damage based on just whatever your physical damage is times 20%. It's like actually an entirely independent normal attack that has nothing to do with normal attack damage. It only has to deal with the refines of the weapon. And the second one, which is the Dragonspine Spear, is very similar, where it's just going to do an area of effect hit that's going to do a spike 200% damage if they're affected by cryo, which I also find to be not the best. Because if you're going for a 4-piece normal attack build, it's not going to be the best. The other reason I don't find... so 4-piece Gladiator for Rosaria is going to be very lackluster. The other thing that I want to talk about... Alright, so the other thing I want to talk about for Rosaria is the Phys build in general. If you're going to be maximizing it with a Bloodstained set overall, and you're going to be going with like a 2-piece Bloodstained set that goes along with a Gladiator set and trying to maximize that damage, the 2-piece physical damage set is pretty good, and you do get good damage of it. But when anything with physical damage, what's really interesting if you did not know is physical damage goblets actually have a higher percentage on their goblet over overall damage than any type of elemental goblet. And the reason I think that they give physical damage more on the goblets is because they know how much weaker Phys damage actually is. So because that's the case, the 25% physical damage bump may actually seem bigger than it actually is, and is actually, to me, equivalent to that of a 15% cryo damage bonus set bonus that you're going to really see from a cryo set or an elemental set, and you're really going to see the overall damage you're going to get in boost in a different way. So I feel like the physical build for Rosaria is not the best option, but if you do want to do it, that's how I would do it. Second thing is I would build Rosaria as a cryo-based character with a cryo set. And the reason I think this is going to be a better weapon and why the physical builds and physical weapons are not the best choice is because when you're looking at a free-to-play account and looking at this character as a free-to-play option, the thing is, you don't want to be focusing all your damage on Rosaria. You want to be focusing your damage split between 4 different characters. So if that's the case, one of the comps I've been running lately is going to be Chungyang, Shinku, and Bennett. And these 3 characters working with Kaeya really maximize my normal attack damage and allow me to use a character like Rosaria or Kaeya very effectively while freezing enemies. So right now my Kaeya is using an Aquila Favonia, which is a physical based weapon, but it's a high base attack weapon that loses a low physical damage substat, which helps me actually do more damage. It also has a 20% attack modifier and a proc hit that's going to be physical. But if we compare it to the other 2 physical weapons, which are both the Crescent Pike and the Dragonspine Spear, the Crescent Pike is more similar to that of the Favonius Lance, because the Crescent Pike is going to be a weapon that has high base attack but low physical damage, whereas the Dragonspine Spear, conversely, is a weapon that actually has low base attack but very high physical damage. And I find that to be a very good weapon for improving the proc damage of a Dragonspine Spear. But what I do find also is that if you're going to be using that kind of strategy, physical weapons are probably not the way to go for, of course, for a cryo build. So let's run Kaeya as a Rosaria style freeze comp here. very similar to a lot of freeze comps out there. We're just going to be going in with Shinku for the Hydro effect. We're going to be using Xiangyang to apply Cryo. And then we're going to be switching over and doing lots of stuff. We then switch over with a lot of different characters. And then we're going to go ahead and pop ultis to make sure we stay alive. Keep the freezes out. Switch back to Xiangyang if we need to. And then just switch back over to Rosaria / Kaeya, whoever we're using. And then just keep rotating as best you need to. You can see the team kind of flows out with really nice rotations, and it allows you to like freeze out enemies in situations like this. You can even get enemies down while they are like constantly pushing you, etc. Because, you know, freeze comps are a little strong against enemies that need to be crowd controlled, but, you know, not always the best. Because I would think Cryo would be a better build for Rosaria. What I'm gonna have to say about spears and stuff is I think that any of the 5-star spears are gonna work for Rosaria. The Skyward Spine, the Staff of Homa, and the Jade Spear are all gonna be top tier options for Rosaria. The other spear, the Summit Shaper or whatever, could potentially work too. But any 5-star spear would work for Rosaria. I don't see any issue with any of them working for Rosaria. As far as 4-star spears goes, I'm a big fan of the Blacklift spears in general, and I think they would be great for Rosaria in this situation as well because of the high C damage on these spears. And I think that would be a much better option for Rosaria, especially if you're going to be keeping her out as a main DPS. The Blacklift polearm is going to be the best overall free-to-play best option, and I wouldn't use any craftable weapons with her at this point. Because when you're looking at Rosaria and we're looking at Phys characters, I made a video 2 days about Phys characters and why Phys characters may not be the best option to build for right now. If you want to check that out, link in the description below. I think the Blacklift polearm as well as the Deathmatch are going to be far superior options overall, but I think the Blacklift polearm is going to outstrip the Deathmatch overall as a weapon, just because when you're looking at Cryo characters and the Cryo set, you need significantly less crit chance on Cryo characters, especially a character like Rosaria that's giving herself crit chance whenever she strikes a critical hit. Also, easily get yourself a Cryo Resonance anytime you want. So if you want to get that Cryo Resonance, it's going to give you a 15% increased crit chance while something is applied with Cryo, especially if you're using a freeze comp. That's going to be very, very easy to get. Okay, the reason I think that Deathmatch is going to be an interesting option that you could potentially use, but maybe like a difficult thing to fit into your overall kit, is because it is a crit rate based weapon, and with Cryo characters, a lot of the time you want to stay away from crit rate based weapon and go more toward crit damage because of resonance, and the overall ease of getting a lot of crit chance on Cryo characters is way higher. So the Deathmatch is a good weapon for her, especially if you can get really low crit chance and really high crit damage. So if you're going to be boosting onto a very, very good Cryo set, a lot of the times with Cryo sets like this, you can end up getting with attack percentage characters like 60% or so crit chance or something like that, with like 130 crit damage with a crit chance headpiece. So you get like really, really high overall factors on your overall damage with crit chance. And then if you add on top of that Rosaria's 12% crit chance, if you add on top of that 15% from Cryo Resonance, that's another 27% crit chance that you potentially get just from Rosaria there. And then if you add on a crit chance weapon to the mix, you can see how fast that can crop up. So you're either going to need a crit chance headpiece or a crit damage weapon. If you wanted to use Rosaria effectively, make sure no matter what, you're going to use a crit chance weapon as well as crit damage weapon and probably a crit damage headpiece. Because the other thing that is going to affect you besides Cryo Resonance, which is something you should always use with Cryo characters, is if you're using a 4-piece Cryo set, you're really going to get a huge bump out of her overall crit chance with a 4-piece Cryo set. And the reason I think the 4-piece Cryo set is a perfect for people who are going to be main DPSing any type of Cryo character is because when you're out on the field, if you're using a freeze comp, it's going to be a 40% crit chance bump. And if you're not using a freeze comp, it's going to be a 20% crit rate bump. So overall, you're going to get a lot more out of the overall build by this. And if you look at how valuable crit chance is to any build in general, if we look at 20% crit rate, that's 1 5-roll artifact on crit chance. And if you end up getting 2 of those, that's 10 rolls of artifact rolls that you don't have to go for on your crit damage substats that allow you to go for straight crit damage and crit damage on a lot of other pieces and not have to worry about as much crit chance. And going for a deathmatch, if you then have that, probably also throws in this other thing in the mix that you don't want. Now, I know you may say, The other issue, the other weapons you could use are like the lithic spear. The lithic spear would be a great option for a character like Rosaria, but of course she is from Mondstadt, and because she's from Mondstadt, you can't get the full bonus on her. I don't really think there's going to be any 3-star weapons that are really going to fall into like things that you should really be going for, like White Tassel or anything like that. I think you're going to need base stats on her, and you're going to need a lot of other stats on her. So for 4-star weapons, if you wanted to use her as a supporting character, Favonius Lance is fine. To get rotations in, because I find that it could potentially be good. Sacrificial does not exist for spears, so that doesn't happen. So you're probably just going to have to deal with if you're going to be maining Blackclef, if you're supporting, use a Favonius, and stay away from Crescent Pike and Dragonspine Spear in general, because Phys builds are kind of on the outs right now until next patch, and potentially you're going to have to wait till then to even see if one would be good or not, if the set holds true, and if the set is good for Rosaria at all. All right, guys, let me know what your thoughts are on Rosaria. If you're going to be summoning for her, not summoning for her, is she waifu? What do you think? And what are you guys thinking about weapons that you're going to be using for Rosaria, artifacts, all that stuff? Thanks for watching. Make sure, like, subscribe, cue the Tectone music.